Welcome to the 24th episode of the Daft Previews podcast, the most underrated sports podcast in the country. Daft Previews started with a horde of successful but degenerate gamblers with passions across all sports, all across the globe. We bring to you in-depth sports previews, in-depth analysis, free tips with a daft sense of humor. On today's episode, we'll dribble through a range of topics. We'll preview the NRL Grand Final, and we'll share some tips on this game. Joining me today is my co-host, Lycus. What's going on, big dog?
Not much. Grand final week, long weekend coming up. How good is life at the moment? Starting to warm up as well. Very excited.
But it depends who you ask. If you ask me, life's not that great. It is grand final week, but I have a fear of this fucking Freedom Day, which is coming up for us. Everyone in New South Wales, we're about to be let out of the zoo for the first time in a long time, and I'm a little bit afraid.
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
13 days.
I'm starting to regret getting double vaxxed. I might have had a better reason to stay home and wait with all my anti-vaxxers out there. Shout out to you if you're listening. But no, a little bit anxious, I think. Having to see people face to face. I'm going to have to, attend events I don't really want to go to, but for the sake of going out, I will. I'm going to have to dog the boys a couple of times. I'm going to get absolutely pissed after my third beer and make a fool out of myself. I'm going to spend a lot of money. I'm going through some financial difficulties, but once we get out of this place, I am going to be spending money, right? I don't want to be wearing the same clothes I wore last year.
I've thought about that too. I'm literally looking at getting ready to go out, and I'm like, they're going to see me. I'm like, you've worn that same shirt? I've looked at my clothes as well, going, I need new clothes.
Yeah. I got a reputation to uphold, so I need to get new clothes. It's going to be expensive. I'm going to have to go out to pubs and that. I'm going to have to buy chicken snitties. I'm going to have to buy some beers, some wet pussies. I'm going to have to feed a little bit of cash at the pokies. Haven't done that in a very long time. That's all expensive. I'm going to have to catch a cab home. That's going to be expensive. I'm going to have to beg the missus to drive me back to the pub the following day to get my car, and she probably won't do it. So that's another cab ride. That's expensive. I'll be hungover and angry. I'm going to have to go through drive-through, get KFC. It's just going to be so expensive just getting out of this joint. I don't know. I'm a bit afraid, but you're happy about the weather?
Yeah, it's warm. It's a bit cool tonight, obviously, but just warmed up a bit. And on the weekend, they're obviously just out on my balcony going, this is starting to turning into day for it weather, like a good day for a beer. It's timing everything, the opening up, the Freedom Day with the weather. So I like this. I like it at this temperature, as we talked before. When it starts to get to like 40 degrees, it's just fucking torture. But at this
weather, not good for us redheads,
No, it's not. And it's this weather here is a nice middle. Like, it's not freezing, but it's not too hot, so you can tolerate it. And yeah, so I'm enjoying it.
It is pretty good. It's good barbecue weather too. But again, that's a very expensive exercise.
It is. But that leads me to what I was thinking about the other day with the weather, right? So I was having a look at it, and something, I think, because the ABC News or something have like the daily things, and I was looking at the video the other day about things that are being rolled out, the plan to exit. And I saw in the top left or right-hand corner, they got the Sydney weather, and it had 20, I think it was like 18. No, so it was like 21 degrees. But underneath it feels like 17 degrees.
It feels.
Now, who determines what it feels like? Where does this, I remember growing up, it never came up, this, it feels like weather. So, but if I stood outside with you and we didn't know what the temperature was, and we asked us both what we feel like the temperature is, there's no way we're going to have the same temperature guess, right? Maybe 1 in 20, we nail the same measurement. But who determines what it feels like? Does someone stand outside going, no, I think it's more this, and goes in and puts it on the website? And who looks at what it feels like when making decisions? When they talk about it, they're going, oh, it's 40 degrees today, but it's all right. I only felt like 37. I've never understood that. And I don't get why they do it. And I don't know who benefits from it or lives of it and who goes by it. But why is it feels like a temperature? It doesn't feel like that. It's 40 degrees. It says 40. The thermometer says 40. It's 40,
Based off your weather tracking experience, has there been any instances where the feels like temperature is more accurate than the temperature? Did it align with your feelings?
No, because again, I wouldn't know. Like, to be honest, like obviously I can tell the difference between 40 degrees and 20 degrees. But like when it gets to say, yeah, 20 degrees, I couldn't tell you.
But it feels like 19.
It doesn't feel like 19 or 18 to me. Again, if it was 10
Yeah.
degrees,
It's not like
if it's 10 degrees, I
it's
wouldn't be
not
able
like
to tell you if it's
you're
8
expecting
or
20.
yeah, if it's 10
Yeah,
degrees, I wouldn't be able to tell
It's
if it's 8 or 11. I'll be like, it's freezing, it's cold. Like it doesn't,
yeah.
I've never understood that. And why do they have
It's
that?
not like you read it's like, oh, it's 21 degrees. Sweet. Don't need a jacket. You walk outside, you're like, cool, feels like 19. I gotta go back in.
No, it doesn't. And that's the only time when you regret. Like I've done that many times. I've gone to the pub, and it's one of very tough decisions to make because obviously we work inside indoors, but you make that decision during the day. You look at it's summer, so you won't bring a jacket, and then you get to the pub, and as soon as the sun goes down, it goes fucking cold. And you're like, maybe I should have brought a jacket. Vice versa.
Yeah.
You bring a jacket, it's absolute stinker, and you got to carry a jacket around the whole time. Mood
You tie
killer.
it around your waist like a
But you
fucking
don't,
dickhead.
even if you look, yeah, exactly. But even if you looked at the weather, that's like extreme planning. People look at the weather and go, oh, but it's 7 p.m. I'm going to be pretty drunk, so I can tolerate the cold a bit more. Plus, it's going to be this. But it's, yeah, again, it wouldn't tell me what it felt like. And that would not incentivize my decision. I base it on basically as it is now during summer. I don't think I'll ever bring a jacket out in the summer. In the winter, 99% of the time, I will bring a jacket. Like,
I obviously it's not just the two of us doing this. Our one of our head producers, Dan, has sent me some info on this feels like temperature. So it's actually been going around a bit since 2014. It was a lot bigger in the US. We didn't really use it much here in the AUS. But the feels like temperature is a measurement of how hot or cold it really feels like outside. The feels like temperature relies on environmental data, including the ambient air temperature, relative humidity, and wind speed to determine how weather conditions feel to the bare skin. Different combinations of temperature, humidity, and wind speed can increase the sensation of being hot or cold. For example, skin that is exposed to wind and cold temperatures will make a person feel that it is colder outside than it really is because heat is drawn away from the body at a faster rate. As another example, a day that is very humid may feel hotter than it really is outside because your body sweat does not evaporate and thereby cool the body the way it is intended. So hopefully that answers your question.
That still doesn't sway me at all. Just what do you mean if it's a windy day it's gonna be feels it's again like if you bring up like a website like now and look up the weather, it doesn't drastically change it. Like for example, Sydney at the moment, 17 degrees Celsius feels like 13. That's still pretty cool to me. 17 degrees is pretty good. 17 isn't hot. 13 isn't like freezing. When it gets to like 10, that's when it starts to get noticeably cold. But it's not, yeah, I don't understand that. Like it makes no sense to me weather, and
yeah,
it's wrong most of the time.
We spoke about deception the other week. Maybe this feels like temperature is the weather's way of
I think they're covering bases,
making sure that we're not deceived by the number.
Yeah,
it's like 17 today, but it feels like 13.
I think it's covering bases.
Don't be fooled.
They've got 4 degrees covered now. So if it's 15 degrees, actually, and no, the weather was right. We told you, but it was in between.
Fucking bang on.
Because everyone always says the weather on your iPhone, for example, is never right and stuff. And then like I learned the other day,
get the location right.
I learned the other day with the showers, it's a chance of showers when they give that percentage. I learned this on TikTok, so I believe it. The percentage means if it's, for example, in Penrith where I am, if there's an 80% chance of showers, it means it's going to rain, but in 80% of Penrith, not an 80% chance you get rain. Yeah, I learned on TikTok.
What do you mean?
So the percentage, so chance of showers percentage is at the percentage. So if it's a 10% chance of showers, means that area will get 10% of it will get rain. And then the mils they have is how much it'll rain.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. TikTok taught me. So that's where I learn all my stuff these days. Shout out to TikTok.
You got to stay on the old TikTok. I don't know what the fuck people are doing it, but I did download it once, the old doc, and I think I invested the first 8 hours I had it for. I was on it for 6 hours.
Wow.
And I was like, this is not good. Like this was worse than a gambling problem. Getting hooked on TikToks.
Oh, it's amazing.
Just,
But you learn things. Like I learned that and I immediately Googled it and that's what came up. Like you Google it, chance of showers meaning. People ask, what does 80% chance of showers mean? If a forecast is 80% chance of rain, it means 80% of the area is going to receive rain at some point during that day. So when you see like the rain forecast, you're like, it's 50%, here's the gambler on us. There's a 50-50 chance we're not getting hit by this. I'll take those odds, like.
it's paying $1.90. That's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
I'll put some money on it. Cash. I apologize if I distract you. I'm holding about $1,000 worth of cash in $20 notes.
My 20s.
Your boy got paid his rent money, and apparently the ATM was only spitting out 20. So I got stacks, boy. I got stacks.
Lobsters for days.
Yeah, it's storming in here. But speaking of storming, bit of a snowstorm over the weekend. Interrupted the Daily M's. We had Cam Munster, Brandon Smith, and who's the other bloke? The guy that fills in at 6 sometimes. Chris Smith? Is there a Chris Smith?
Yes.
Oh fuck. Yeah.
Thanks,
3 of them had a white substance. Firstly, who the fuck films that?
There's so many questions that come out of this that no one that obviously people who are familiar with this stuff and understand it, not necessarily do it, but questioning, such as why is there a phone out? Is it like, oh my God, it's my first time hanging out with the cheese? The fact that it was done around a table like it was dinner was the second piece. And then the third piece was that person who filmed, everyone's going to know who it was in that team. Like, that's not like something going,
oh, yeah.
Oh, who leaked it? No, we can tell who was filming. We know exactly who that was.
We know where he was sitting.
It's,
What a fucking dickhead.
I thought at first it was Harry Grant because he wants that number 9 spot. He can't seem to get it, but it's apparently
cash.
The rumor out there, it's a reserve grader or a squad player. It's not a first grader doing it, but
oh, really?
Yeah, that was the rumor going out of it. But it's obviously not just affecting there. It's obviously must be a Queensland thing because Reece Walsh was partying, and I've got more questions about that too. Now, obviously, we're not saints. We're not saying we are, but if you've got something that isn't good, if the police, search you and they ask you to move on, just move on. Be like, oh, apologies, officer.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Why would you argue? Like, that was the dumbest part of it. And then people jump on it going, oh, footy players. But it's true. But why would you why would you pull your phone out and film it? And B, if you've got and officers come up to you, wouldn't you be shitting bricks to begin with and then literally just cooperating and getting on?
Yeah, you gotta, if you're holding that shit, you gotta get out of there.
Yeah, just go, yep, apologies, sir, move on. Don't give them a reason. But it's obviously the timing of it is not ideal, but Volandis has come out and said that there's not a drug problem in the NRL. It's no different to the real life. Just I think because
I'd agree with that.
I'd agree with that too. And I think just because of how soon it is they've happened those cases together, that's what's raised it. Whereas Brent Naden literally did it on grand final day last year and tested positive. No one said a word about it at the time. In fact, Penrith stood him down for 8 weeks and no one exactly raised it then. Whereas you see what happens afterwards, and it's I just think the fact that they're trying to make something out of it, obviously it's not a good look and I'll get punished, and fair enough. But I just think just move on. It's the world of mobile phone cameras, and I think players in the 90s and early 2000s were very lucky that there were no cameras, because I guarantee you behavior back then was a lot more wild than it is now.
Of course. You could build a premiership team with the number of players who bloody had a bit of
Andrew Johns
in their system.
Andrew Johns literally talked about it when he got caught in London, that he was all the time during the season doing it with that stuff. And but it was quite funny because everyone was like, oh, Brandon Smith going to be Dally M's. And then I watched it last night, and God, there was some comedy in that. Firstly, why they split the Dally M's into 2 episodes, over 2 weeks now. That's stupid to begin with. We all knew what the count was up to going into last night, and 5 rounds ago, and they just dragged it on for another night.
Yeah.
But then, you have Toto mucking around in the background of everyone's camera. And then the cheese was there. So obviously the footage had been released about 4 hours early, but he
Yeah.
went with his
He
mum.
looks so upset.
He
Him and
went with his.
Munster look awkward as.
They just sat and they were they had the front table as well, and they just sat there and he went up and won it. He got his award and he just took it and just dawdled up, took the award and went back down. Like they just look like two men that were like, just get me out of here. Like yeah.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is the NRL is planning an expansion team, right? And I hear they're going to be called the Cocaine Coyotes. That's the new club.
It's not a bad name.
I've got the team list here. I'll take you through it and just let me know what your thoughts are. How do you think they'll fare in their first year? It's some groundbreaking stuff. At fullback, Reece Walsh. But obviously you need to have some depth. So we're clearly going to have Ben Barber as a backup for Reece Walsh. He's young. He doesn't have a first grade body yet. He might miss some time, but Ben Barber, handy replacement. On the right wing, we've got Wendell Saylor, dual international. Yeah. Carmichael Hunt in the centres, partnered by Brett Naden. On the other wing.
Hunt will give good distribution as well. So
great distribution. Sean Kenny Dow on the other wing.
Oh, yeah.
Rocks and diamonds.
Very rocks and diamonds. A lot of rocks.
Starting at 6, Cam Munster, of course.
Yeah, has to.
Is the next Wally Lewis. At 7, you've got the 8th, Andrew Johns. Your starting prop, Sam Burgess, clearly. Your hooker, Brandon Smith. Your other prop, Jesse Bromwich. In the second row, Greg Bird, Brian Fletcher, and lock in the scrum, Kevin Proctor. Wait to see the bench. Dave Taylor, Todd Carney, Jaden Nikarima, so a bit of utility, and Jamil Hopewadi. Like,
not a bad team.
You've got every position covered. And the coach for this one is Brett Finch. So
I was thinking, how is he going to miss that spot?
He's the head coach, head of football development, the lot. But that's a gun side. The Cocaine Coyotes. They'll take it to some of the best we've ever had. But I don't think it's a football problem. That's just Australia, I think.
I think so too. And I've had this discussion with people for a few years now. And I remember someone saying, like, how can that person think it's okay once? And I said, because it's very common. Like, I think also a lot of it is because that is something common to every level of society. So from your people at the bottom of society to your biggest high earner people at the top, your most successful people, to your roughest and baddest people and criminals, through to your cleanest people, this stuff it goes everywhere. So I think that's why it's not as, discussed and be like, oh, it's a problem, because a lot of people won't push that agenda because they would know people or themselves, or like, yeah, it's not singled out to one industry where, for example, another issue could be, say, domestic violence or something. That's obviously more socioeconomic. It happens in that demographic a lot more than other demographics. I'm not going to say what demographic because I'm not like the expert on it, but that's what you'll tend to see. So yeah, I think not just Australia, the world, I've traveled a lot, and again, it's not like limited to Australia. Gambling's pretty big here. We love a punt. But again,
we lose more than anyone, don't we?
We do again, but then again, that's every demographic punts. There's not like the rich punt, the poor punt, the people, different religions punt. Like everyone punts. It's a common thing.
Yeah.
So that's why, again, nobody pushes the agenda of we've got a gambling problem and everything. That's why I don't want to push the thing we've got a drug problem, because it's super common across everywhere. So yeah, I just think they'll get the normal suspension, obviously integrity, and will go through, and depending on prior records, which I think those guys have, they'll probably
2 to 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah, those junior players in there, if they get found out, they'll probably get sacked from the club. They just use it as an easy scapegoat for them.
Yeah.
So
I think the good thing out of this whole thing is I can see Cam Munster leaving Melbourne. He doesn't fit what they're all about.
there was
They
already
can't
talks.
tame the beast.
There was already talks about that before this.
Yeah. He
But
brought it
also,
up himself, the dick.
yeah. But also the other point on that is with him leaving and everything, and also on the Melbourne culture, there's a lot of Melbourne players lately have, like, you talk about your Bromwich's, Proctors, now these two, these play like it's, and Brett Finch, like
But
the
they're
one
not
thing
much different to anyone else.
exactly when they had this stigma going, Melbourne Storm have a winning culture, you don't fall in line, you get moved
No.
on and everything like that. Like Jesse Bromwich is still that these people, like,
No.
it's common across everywhere, and the fact they make it like the Melbourne Storm culture, I'm like,
No.
no,
It's the Broncos in the 90s.
Yeah.
You can shield them a lot better.
yeah,
But all these cunts are all the same, so I wouldn't buy into that.
yeah.
Speaking of cunts, we've got a big game we're supposed to be previewing right now. So let's get into the grand final, shall we?
Let's roof in.
Let's fucking go. We got the Penrith Panthers up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Penrith Panthers, they're favourites to take out the 2021 NRL Premiership. They stunned the reigning premiers, Melbourne Storm, in the prelims last week. Fucking ripper of a game. The Storm, they were flying all season, breaking records. They were heavy favourites. They blitzed Manly. And then the Panthers produced a sensational performance, especially in defence, to edge Melbourne out 10-6 in an absolutely brutal clash. Penrith's defence has been brilliant. They've only conceded one try in both wins over the Eels and the Storm. That's going to give the blokes that big dick confidence. They'll be swinging it around, and they'll be ready for Sunday's grand final encounter with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Bunnies have been arguably the best team of the finals, and they too will be extremely confident. Dick's probably not as big as Penrith, but you could argue that they're wider, right? They've got the girth, these boys. They've got the thicker dicks, despite being $2.30 outsiders. They toppled the Panthers 16-10 in the opening week of the finals. And that was on the back of their own steely defense. Forwards turned up, absolutely bashed Penrith. They kept Penrith scoreless throughout the whole second half, despite Penrith having quite a bit of ball. So very thick dicks in the South camp at the moment. After they've earned a week off, they then blitzed Manly 36-16. They snapped a 3-year losing run in the prelim finals, and they have advanced to the big dance. Now, I hope everybody is still listening, because this next statement is very important. We're going to be completely honest with you. We have no fucking idea who's going to win this game. All right? Lycus, he's a Penrith boy through and through. He's a bit biased. He's blind. He's emotional. He's nervous. He's anxious. He's the lot. He doesn't know what is going on. And me, I'm a highly emotional driven person, and I tend to tip people based on who I like more. So just a caveat, we don't know who's going to win this game, but we're going to share you quite a bit of insights, some dafty insights. Some might be humorous, some might be a bit offensive, but we'll share with you some insights on this game and how we think it could go. We'll talk a little bit about try scorers. We'll talk about the Churchill medal, because you can get some good odds on that. And we'll talk through some other things as well. But firstly, we had Tavita Pangai Jr. He's been ruled out. He's been playing very well for your lads in this finals. How much of a loss do you think he's going to be for Penrith?
He'll be a big loss. So he didn't play many minutes last week, but key part of Penrith's win last week was they started well. All week, the hype was Melbourne are fast starters and everything. And he came out and really went after Christian Welch, even though it was a very short stint of about 10 minutes. He set them up.
He
and
came
laid the
after him,
platform. He went after him and then came on the second half and provided some very good ball work with the offloads. And I think against Souths, that's going to be key again, is that forward battle, which everyone's looking forward to. So he's going to be a big loss. I think, but however, Spencer Leniu getting in, taking his spot, because that's the way the team will line up. Sorensen will be on the bench. Spencer coming in because Leota was injured last week, but now he keeps his spot. Spencer came off the bench last week, looked awesome as well. That power running game through the middle. And I think when the game's fatigue and everything, he just tucks under his arm and he runs hard. I'll probably jinx him now, he'll knock on, but he does. He's very safe as
Oh
a
yeah, he'll
forward
knock it on. Yeah,
through the
he
middle.
won't play the
So,
ball right. He'll knock it on. Yeah,
yeah,
and all the boys will give him taps. It's like all good, bruh.
yeah, and also the theory behind Tavita stepped aside because of this. He could have pushed through. That's a load of bollocks. Like his knee was fucked. Like that's purely it. But again, the narrative looks good and it's a positive story for Penrith. And that's the whole purpose of this week, is to put the positives out and spin it. Meanwhile, in the Souths camp, Latrell's partner come out and make comments about the NRL system. I'm like, that's a negative. I'm like, that's not what you need to hear. So that's what's basically at the moment with Tavita, but he's a massive loss.
Massive. He was playing good. It was good to see him on the field. Unfortunately, he's injured. Penrith have been making a mockery out of the apparent injuries coming out of their camp. My question for you is, who the fuck actually is injured? Can you tell us who is, who's got a couple niggling injuries? We know, what's his name? Fucking James Fisher-Harris.
Yep.
He's niggled because he was a question mark on whether he was going to play. So we can all say that he's going to play, but he's not at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is a little bit fucked up? Kickout's got quite a bit of strapping on him.
Kickout's got a bit on him, but I think Kickout's a bit soft. I don't think Kickout's is that bad. Toto's the opposite. I think Toto's probably got a worse injury, but is playing through it better than Kickout is. He's not 100%. He's not exploding as much, but he's still, the work rate's there, which is good. Like that try on the weekend that he knocked on when Jerome Hughes tackled him on the line. I feel like a fit Toto would have just barreled over him. Instead, he tried diving low and hard, trying to. He would have. So I think he's carrying a niggling injury. Fisher Harris, we talked about. I think Cleary's shoulder is very well hidden at the moment of how bad it is, because again, he hasn't made a single line break since he's come back from the injury. He's booked in for surgery 3 days after the grand final. It is literally a busted shoulder he's playing with.
3-day bender and straight into surgery.
And then back out in a sling and then back up to Byron for New Year's. So he's not nowhere near 100% at the moment. I feel like he's probably one of the worst. But teams haven't really been able to attack his shoulder because of the way they defend, and he hasn't been caught out and everything. But every team should have also by now figured it out and gone after him, and they haven't. There's a reason why, and that's Penrith's defense overall. He's got very good inside defenders with Isaiah Yeo, and his outside defenders there, and the centers are very, very solid. The moment Momorowski's coming in, so
What about Dylan Edwards? Fucking, he always seems to be injured with something.
Yeah,
100%.
No, he was limping around a bit, but he's always, as you said, always seems.
Is he just concussion prone or something? Like, is that what he gets? I don't know what's wrong with him.
I just think he hasn't got a passing game. That's his biggest problem. But no, I don't think he's got anything like major going on. He should be fine. But it's most of this Penrith team a bit battered up just because of the level of the games they've been playing. They've been absolute wars in every game. But on the flip side, you look at the South team. And Adam Reynolds is a big question.
Adam Reynolds is fucked.
Yeah, Adam Reynolds is really struggling. And if there's one thing that Souths have had over Penrith in all their fixtures, even the ones they've lost, is Reynolds' kicking game has been ridiculous. Like that 40-20 he hit in that week one of the finals was possibly the greatest 40-20. He literally split it between Naden and Edwards and went over the fingertips for a 40-20. The kick last year in the preliminary, which was nearly a 40-20, was a cannon of a 40-20 as well. And there's one thing Penrith get caught out on, and maybe it's because Edwards is a moron and doesn't understand the 20-40 rule, is they leak some 40-20s Penrith or 20-40s. That threat's now just about gone unless Reynolds makes a miracle recovery. But
yeah, if Souths kick the way they did against Manly, they're not going to win. It can't be Cody Walker just bombing it. It's not going to work.
No.
But, so I think he's the only one with an injury cloud on him. He just happens to be your most important player, Adam Reynolds. He gets the ball rolling in that place. Yeah. And it's a groin too. It's a groin. It's not going to stop him from running, but running's not a strong part of his either. In defense, he'll be fine. Yes. But he can't kick. He can't do general kicking. Plus, he can't kick goals. He's kicking at 80% this year. His replacement, Blake Taff, 50% he's kicking.
Yeah, he kicked a couple of good ones on the weekend, but If you're kicking, if you've got a 50% kicker and you're playing a grand final,
you're only going to score 2 tries.
Those kicks, yeah. And even Cleary missed a simple kick for Cleary on the weekend. And that was to go 12-0 up against Melbourne. And he cheated. Yeah, they cheated again. But it was a kick to go 12-0 up. So there was a bit of pressure on because if he sunk that, he knew they have total control of the game. But because he missed it, and what happened, Melbourne scored, then there's the fear, oh my God, Penrith could lose this. Whereas if they score that, that conversion.
As a Penrith fan, is that what you felt?
I felt it was coming. Yeah, I thought the whole 80 minutes, especially, like someone who was absolutely amazing, and you guys are picking up a great player next year, not just Adam Reynolds, is Capewell. He was incredible. His defense and the way he played on the weekend, and then he knocks on the ball with 3 minutes to go, and I thought,
I know.
This is it.
He knocked it on. And then I looked at my missus and she's like, is that the guy going to the Broncos? I was like, he's been playing really well. He just knocked the ball on. Like, he's doing a great job. It reminds me of a young Matt Gillette.
Yes.
Because he's not a destructive ball runner at all. By any stretch of the imagination. But he makes defensively, he's fantastic.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, honestly, both teams have injury concerns. I think South don't have as many, but they've probably got the biggest concern because that Reynolds kicking game, whereas Cleary's defense isn't the best. As long as Cleary can kick and steer the boys around, I think they're fine. So it's not as much of a concern. And I think if Melbourne can't expose that shoulder and Para couldn't expose that shoulder, then I don't see, if that shoulder was that bad to defend.
South have a chance.
Yeah, if that shoulder was that bad, though, that they would have conceded more points on their line because they've defended a lot of lines on the set. No one's cracked them. So I think by now.
I think his shoulder's fine enough to tackle front on. Everyone's been just sending a second rower at him as hard as they can.
Yeah.
But he's fine with that. He's comfortable. Yes. He's tackling like Cameron Smith at the moment. He's not putting the shots on. He's catching.
Yeah.
But I think where it could be a bit risky is he defends on that dangerous edge where South can get a little bit rampant.
Yeah.
And when you've got people running those inside lines, it's going to force him to make decisions, and he's going to have to lunge. He's going to have to do those tackles like where Reid Marnie fucked his shoulder.
Yeah.
Those are the types of tackles he's not going to be able to make.
Yeah.
But if you're just running straight at him, that's easy. He's going Cameron Smith in your ass. But I think he'll be fine. I don't think they need to have a Cooper Cronk strategy where they hide him or anything. Their defense is that good. He could stay where he currently is, and I think they'll be okay. What are your thoughts on the coaching battle and the difference that makes on the outcome of this game? Bennett, champion coach, potentially the best ever. He's got 6 premierships already, chasing his 7th. It's an opportunity for him to win a premiership with 3 different clubs, which has never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst Cleary has been to a few grand finals, hasn't won them. He's he's got the second most games out of any coach without winning a grand final. He's still a long way away from catching Brian Smith.
Yeah,
but he is on that list of people with a shit ton of experience and no titles to go with it.
Yeah,
but how much of a difference do you think that makes?
Oh, I think it makes if it was 12 months ago, to make a huge difference. Obviously, Wayne Bennett's been there, done that. So that will calm and ease the players a bit that he's gone. And then in terms of the mind games, I can't see them being the whole thing about, Wayne Bennett schooled Cleary. But what it ultimately did also was it took, I know there still was a lot of heat on it. Looks a lot of Penrith pressure off, because if there was none of that battle and that result happened, it wouldn't have been a Wayne Bennett masterstroke. It would have been Penrith, what is going with their players. A couple of journalists did attack them, but it's often a thing coaches do is just take the deflection off. And sometimes, even if it's a bad battle that you lose with a coach or something, it takes the heat off your players. And that's a lot of the purpose of the coach, is not to put pressure on the players from external sources and only come from them, the pressure, because then they know what pressure they can put on. But it will make a big difference. Obviously, Ivan wants to win one, but then the opposite side is he's got the experienced NRL team in a grand final and big games versus South. South do have some experience in big game players, but again, Blake Taff is literally the youngest and least ever games to make a grand final. Benji Marshall hasn't played rep football for quite some time, and even a grand final in 16 years. So there's a lot of pressure there. Cody Walker failed at Origin many times and struggled under big game pressure. You've obviously got Gagai, who's played Origin, who's got it, but then, Johnston, it's been a long time since he's been in a grand final. But then you take outside of that, the whole Penrith team literally have played a grand final, apart from like your Spencer Linu. They've all been there already in the big dance before. Matt Burton wasn't there last year, but they've all done that. And then 7 or 8 of them played Origin this year. So that's pretty much comparable with it. So they're not going to be as daunted by this week because they did it all last year as well. Wayne Bennett's record is very impressive and scary, but he did lose his last grand final. He also coached against
Ben Hunt lost that.
Yeah, Ben Hunt lost that. But again, that was the Cowboys' first ever grand final. Thurston, there was a lot of pressure on them. In the end, they went through and beat them as well. Whereas the master coach, Wayne, had this team humming along and couldn't get them over the line either.
Couldn't close.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of articles that have come out about Wayne Bennett living rent-free in Ivan Cleary's head.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had a chance to read through that today. He's taken it up to another level. Rumor has it, Dally M night, psychological warfare. Ivan Cleary was under the impression that Wayne Bennett wasn't coming. However, when the award for 5'8" of the year was given to Cody Walker instead of Jerome Luai, Ivan spotted Wayne Bennett giving him a nice little grin from the back corner of the venue. He made direct eye contact with him. Bennett then proceeded to give Ivan a wink before disappearing into the shadows of darkness and not to be seen again that evening. And it's believed that Ivan Cleary is today. He's running on half an hour of sleep after a restless night of deeply and emotional thinking. Panthers insiders say that he's barely uttered a word to the boys today as they begin the crucial pre-match preparations. So he was also spotted leaving the club's training facilities in Brisbane earlier, making tracks back to his hotel with a bottle of Jack Daniels. So I don't know how Ivan's doing, but
he's doing fine.
Hopefully he's settled down.
He's doing fine. To be honest, he came out and complimented him as the greatest ever coach. Gave him a rap. Gave him the rap but he just also knocked off possibly, I think, just as good a coach in history in Craig Bellamy. And he has a very good record against Craig Bellamy.
Bellamy is the best coach in modern history.
Yeah, so he knocked him off there. I thought I think obviously, who would you rather have in a grand final week? You'd say Wayne Bennett every day of the week. But I don't know. There's so many storylines to this game and it hasn't kicked off yet, the coaching warfare. The blockers and everything. I don't think he can revisit and use that again because, I don't know what he's going to come up with now, but
we'll see. It's going to be fun. What are your thoughts on, I guess, the drive to win this game? So often in these games, it's about who's going to show up, like who's going to get up for it. There's no time for these guys to warm into this game because I think slow start from either team, you're going to lose. Souths have the potential, if they jump the Panthers, they can run away with it. Whereas the Panthers, if they get ahead, they can protect the lead better than anyone.
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking about the motivational factors for Souths. Obviously, it's the last game for Bennett, last game for Reynolds, Sewer, Gagai, Benji, Burgess. It's the last game for Souths. Whereas for Penrith, it's a redemption story for them after flopping last year. Who do you think? Who comes into this game more motivated to win?
I think Penrith. I know it's their last games, but I think, not that I've been there, but I think this whole week would be a reminder of the pain they went through last year and the off season, what we did in the off season. There's a build up for this. Whereas theirs might be more of a celebration. Let's do it for this guy. Let's do it for that guy, which again is motivating. But I think Penrith know what the pain is of losing and they don't want to do that again. And I think if you've looked at their last couple of games, even against South, they weren't 100%, but they dug in and they fought. And you could see the way they come out against Melbourne. They really wanted to get revenge on these guys and beat them. And then there was a story about Melbourne playing videos in the change rooms after of Panthers boys saying from the area, mocking them and stuff like that. And they use that as motivation. And they're a very tight group, Panthers. So I think they're going to have the more motivation. Obviously, there's a lot of players retiring or leaving South. So there's that for them as well. But I think if it was Melbourne in the grand final, then I'd say definitely South has way more motivation, but they're playing a team who just lost a game. So they have really got it all in to lose. But both teams have plenty of motivation. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Another question for you. Reports have come out that South are going to be favoured by the crowd.
yeah,
Looking at all the sales and all the bays that were filled out, because it's a sellout this grand final, no surprise. I think it was like 65% of the fans going into South fans, and the rest of Penrith. Obviously, you got your neutrals in there, but it's like a 60-40 split. So South's are going to have more of the fans. Do you think that's going to impact the game at all?
a bit. It will obviously help South. South's always going to have a bigger fan base. They're an older club. The older clubs have bigger fan bases. Yeah, and they're worldwide. The South fans everywhere. I say it will to an extent. There will be Penrith fans there as well. Last year's grand final was a bit odd, which I was at. There was probably there would have been more Penrith fans, but because everyone was so spread out, it wouldn't have felt like a Panthers home game. So
Yeah.
But if it's 65%, it's not. That's not a huge. If it was say 90%, then it would have felt like a home game for them. That'd be different. But there will also be a lot of casuals there as well, and non-Panthers or South fans. So, yeah, it definitely will be a slight edge for them there, but it is Suncorp as well. So, again, it's not ANZ. If it was at ANZ, then Jesus Christ, you could have 70,000 South fans and 10,000 Penrith fans. So, in a way, it's good that it's up there for Penrith.
Yeah, that's true. One more question, scenario-based question before we talk about some tips. Questions based on it's not the home crowd advantage because I've just spoken about that. I've got a mind blank. I'm shooting blanks not only in bed but also on the podcast. It just hit me. This game is played in the afternoon, so we've got daytime footy. We're expecting a dry track. Is that right? It's like 3 or 4 o'clock or something.
No, 7:30.
It's at 7:30.
Yeah.
Who the fuck was I watching? On bloody 360, they were talking about it being on during the day.
No, 7:30.
So it's at night time.
Yeah.
Who do you think that suits better?
The nighttime probably Souths. If it's wet, but it's Queensland, so I don't think it'd be too dewy. I think the slot, like the tougher the conditions, the drier the conditions, the more it suits Penrith, because Penrith move the ball a bit more and will tire the forwards out, whereas South will play up the middle and try and get quick play of the balls. And in the wet, it might suit them a bit more because Penrith can't do that themselves as well. So I'd say his conditions would favour Souths, but again, I haven't seen a game up unless it's forecast of rain. I haven't seen a game up in Queensland recently where it's been like dewy and slippery and tough to play.
Do you know what the temperature feels like, though? That's what's most important.
Probably feels like 10 and it's going to be forecast for 40. So God knows.
Well, Penrith, $1.68. You can get them right now on Sportsbet as we speak on this Tuesday evening. South's $2.25. The line is 3.5. Total points in this one has already started to move. It's at 37.5. We agree we can't pick a winner. If we did, we'd be giving out shit tips, and we're not about that life. But where we do agree is on the total points going under. We both agree that this is going to go under 37.5. I'll throw it over to you. Why are we so hard about that?
The unders, it's just
why are we so aroused to go on the unders?
Because Penrith's defense is ridiculous. And I said it last week on the podcast. So those who listen to me, thank you. I said, Penrith are going to win this game. You get on Penrith and get on the unders, because Melbourne don't lose games on overs. They don't. Like, that's just common sense. And there's one thing that stood out through the whole season, even when Cleary done his shot, even Cleary was playing Origin and Penrith missing 7 players, even when Penrith were out of form and not playing the same footy that even when everyone criticised them, their defense has remained solid the whole time. Even their worst game, apparently, in a while against South, they only conceded 2 tries. South kicked a couple of penalty goals. That was it. 2 tries. They've since conceded 1 against Para and 1 against Melbourne. The unders is an absolute steal for me. Penrith are going to play safe football also, because last year they said, you know, let's go out and throw the ball around, try and beat Melbourne. They threw an intercept pass. They knocked on, kick out, pushed about 4 passes too many. They turned over the ball and gave away. And the theme for this final series with the top teams is if they get an opportunity inside, you don't give opportunities inside your 20, 30 meter line to the other team. If you're going to knock on the ball, knock it on down the end of the field. And Penrith didn't complete very well last week. They completed okay, but not super well. But where they were losing the ball was on halfway or in the Melbourne half or in a scrum in the middle of the field and halfway. They weren't turning over the ball inside the 20. They were giving away line dropouts, but they weren't conceding. So the unders for me is an absolute lock because Penrith, the both teams are going to go out there going, don't give them a head start. Don't let them run away. Keep them close. So at worst, one try each for the first half. And I can see it playing the exact same way as last game. 36.5 is way too big. I can't see either team getting 18 points. So yet alone, you could get on the unders. And if one of them happens to get to 20, 24 points, if Penrith hypothetically were to get to 20 points or something, they're not letting South score 18. They're just going to keep defending and backing themselves, and they've got that real mentality. So it's an absolute. If
Penrith are scoring that much points, they've got more possession too. So
exactly, less ball for Souths. And where Souths do get undone is if the games this year where they have been comprehensively beaten, they just don't look like a threat at all on attack. So unders is absolute steal. Like it's ridiculous. And I enjoying these lower scoring games again. It's good to have that mix. Personally, I'm seeing as well. Not from Saturday was very stressful and Sunday will be stressful this week. But I like these grindy games. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's exciting. It's not blowouts. But yeah, that's how I see unders for sure.
As a neutral, it's great. It's great football to watch. When you back any game to go unders, it's always stressful.
Yeah.
So despite being a neutral, I'm backing the unders. So I will be stressed with you. Probably not as much because I'm only dropping a couple of units on this bad boy, but I'll be stressed enough. I think this is an easy unders. All of Penrith's games throughout the finals have all gone unders by a lot. The most points scored was 26, and that was against the Souths. So I'm not only going to take the 37.5, I'm also going to go the under 28.5 at $3.45. And I'm also playing both teams to score 10 market, and I'm going no. Get that for over $3 as well. So just a couple of units, scoop a couple of those things up, and I enjoy the game. But I can confidently say that this is going to be the unders. It's the grand fucking final. There's no let's get better next week. There's none of that going to happen.
No.
These teams have to be at their best defensively. They might be nervous. When you're nervous, you might make some errors with the ball, but defensively, they have to be on. So
it also plays into, because one thing I like betting on grand final is the Clive Churchill medal. So what this ultimately, if you look who won it last year, Pappenhausen, it was because of an attacking display, but also defensive display. And because this game is going unders there's a couple ways you can look at it playing it. You can go, right, like Cleary, for example, is a $4 favorite to win the Clive Churchill. Now, this final series, he hasn't been man of the match in any of the games. You'd argue Capewell was the best on ground last week, for example. So if it's going to be an unders game, there is value in the Clive Churchill.
There's value.
The only way Cleary wins it, obviously, is if he hits the winning field goal or kicks from the sideline, makes a difference there, which he can. It's very possible.
If his kicking game is really good and he controls it, because it's going to be a low scoring game. But if it's low scoring and Penrith are always in better field position, because of the kicks that Cleary does.
Yes.
He doesn't even have to get a try assist in this game. He's a good chance at winning.
So like Kurt Capewell, $26 to the Clive Churchill medal. Like his work rate, if he plays like he did last week and Penrith win, he's nearly immoral to get the Clive Churchill, I feel. I know it's voted on commentators and they love their bias towards playmakers and fullbacks and things like that. But yeah, Dylan Edwards, $34, good cover defender. But there's so much value there in these underdog roughies because if you go back, look at when was the last grand final that was an absolute grind? Was Cronulla Sharks Melbourne, right? The rest of them all been pretty blowouts. Like Roosters blew out both teams, Canberra and Melbourne. Penrith got blown out, obviously. Melbourne and Cronulla Sharks an absolute grind. Do you remember who got the Clive Churchill that year?
Who was it?
Luke Lewis.
Luke Lewis, yeah. It was
probably wasn't the best on the field, but you know who was the best on the field that day? Andrew Fafita. Fafita was best on the field that day, and Fafita got robbed of it. Luke Lewis, I had money on him, was paying $16 or $18 to win the Clive Churchill. He won it that day. And that's where I see the value also, because I think that's a good thing to bet on the Clive Churchill. We don't get to bet on Dally M's anymore. which I probably would
Yeah.
have done all right on because most of the positions weren't shocks. But Clive Churchill medals, when it's grinds, you take the forwards basically. You don't low scoring grinds. You don't take your fancy players. Recent years, for example, Pappenhausen won it. Jack White won it in 2019. Was a losing team, but then you had Keary, Slater win it. Luke Lewis won it in that grind. Thurston won it when they beat you boys, but then
Milford should have got that.
Yes, agree. But whenever there's low scoring games, even the Manly Warriors game in 2011, which was 124-10, that was Glenn Stewart. So
I was going to say Glenn Stewart,
yeah, they're very low scoring games. They tend, forwards win them more often than not. So
I'm liking Cam Murray.
Yeah, he's another very good value bet. He's $11, Cam Murray, and I think if Souths win it, it's going to be on a monster effort from him.
Yeah. It's not going to be Cody Walker, even though he's the shortest for South, because Cody Walker gets it if he puts on tries, right?
Yeah.
It's going unders. Max they'll score is 3 tries. 3 try. If South score 3 tries, they've gone overs on their points, right?
Yeah.
So he's not going to be as heavily involved. Well, he's going to be heavily involved, but he's not going to impact the game as much as he does. But Cam Murray, he's capable of throwing down 40 tackles.
Yeah.
8 quick play the balls, a potential line break, some offloads. Like, I think him and Isaiah are probably the ones that I like the most. But they're the shortest price forwards that you're going to get. Those locks are so heavily involved and so pivotal these days.
Yeah.
Definitely some value. Chuck a unit on each of them.
Yeah, go back to 2004. Bulldogs beat the Roosters. It was like 16-13, I think it was. Yeah, 16-13, low score. Willie Mason got the Clive Churchill that day, and that Roosters team had the man Sonny Bill Williams basically rocking everyone's world and blowing in insane form. Like, they had a stacked team, the Dogs, back then, and Willie Mason, a prop, won it that day. So games that are grindy and stay low scoring, they tend to favor the forwards. Even the hookers get a shout in. So when you guys beat Melbourne 15-8 back in 2006, Sean Berrigan won the Clive Churchill. Not Lockyer, none of the All-Star. Like, he was good, but like a hooker. 2003, Penrith beat the Roosters. I think it was like 16-10, I think, in that one as well. 18-6. Yeah. That was Luke Prudis who won it that day. Again, a dummy half. And you remember that game was pouring rain. It was a grind. That's where I think the value also is in betting on the grand finals. Clive Churchill.
In these low-scoring games, it work rate. You get it through work rate.
Yeah, because they harp on about it after the game, and that's all they hyped on against Penrith, even though Cleary put in a genius kick, was the middles, Sorensen chasing down the field, Jerome Hughes, those things. And if Melbourne won, it would have been on the back of Nelson doing big minutes, Finucane killing up the middle. It wasn't going to be on the back of Pappenhausen, even if he scored the winning try.
Yeah. I think you got to follow the VB hard earn index. That's going to give you an indication of who the judge
I'm just like the weather, how it feels like. I don't know how that's calculated, and I don't understand it. But some of the players are the hardest workers. I'm like, well, where are they putting out in their teams? I can't see
it. But no, I'll back that. Let's talk a little bit about try scorers. In a low-scoring game, I haven't had a look, but surely the bookie's going to fuck everyone on try scorers. Can you whack open the odds for me?
So it's not as bad. The shortest price anytime is Todd at $1.83, and then Johnson's $2. So obviously it's not ideal. This is back. These are markets back before the 6 again rule. This is what you used to get for anytime try scorers.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless it was like a heavy favorite, but you wouldn't get like $1.70 was like the voodoo like price. Now you get like $1.20s and stuff popping out every week. Try scorers.
There's 50% chance for Johnson to score. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's lower than that.
I think it's hard to pick the anytime try scorers in a grand final with this kind of lineup and defense. Whereas last year's grand final was a bit easier because they kind of had a similar points line, but because they just assumed the 2 best attacking teams would cancel each other out or something like that. I probably, if you're going to do it, just go along the lines of a dummy half, Cook or Appy Coruscant, because big plays grand finals come from your dummy halves, try scorers in history. So obviously went back to Pritis in 03. Sam Verrills a couple of years ago scored from dummy half when he was just stepping in for Jake Friend. Last year, Cam Smith, questionable try, but he did score off Appy Coruscant trying to knock the ball out of his hands on halftime. So history shows that dummy halves like to crash over in grand finals. That's a big play, I think. They usually will have a look, and it's a big momentum swing in a grand final. So, and Penrith do
Appy, eh?
And Penrith do like conceding from dummy half. Brandon Smith scored a couple of times against us, but Appy scored against Rabbitohs on the end of the regular season also from dummy half. Sold a good dummy, but if I'm gonna play any try scorers, I'm steering clear of the wingers.
Yeah, I think it's an absolute scam. I've done some quick maths, right?
Yep.
I've just done a quick look at all of South's tries and the number of tries that Alex Johnson has this year. Alex Johnson has scored 20% of all of South's tries. All right.
Yep.
The line that Sportsbet is giving us tells us they think Souths are going to score 3 tries. All right, that's 16 and a half. They'll score 3 of them. Conversions are questionable. So now they've got 3 tries. Johnson scores 20% of their tries. That's less than a try. I don't want to touch him.
No.
I did general maths, but I'm good enough to understand that, and I don't like it. But what I do think could be worth a stab is the first try scorer market, and if we can get bonus bets back for it.
Yep.
So you pick your first try scorer, you pick him to score anytime, and you go under 70 points.
Yeah, it's a good way to farm bonus bets, basically.
Yeah. And I think I would be more comfortable just picking a first try scorer at these ridiculous odds than at any time, because we're only going to see 4 to 5 tries in this game.
Yeah.
It's going to be a real difficult one to pick. So I'd prefer to avoid it, but me being an absolute degenerate, it probably won't. So
on that note, then, if you were to go, say, Appy Coruscant, $36 to get over first try scorer. Sometimes the bookies butcher the odds, but they usually fix it so it drops the odds down a little bit. But if you were to put him in a same game multi with unders, you'll get about 35 to 1 still. So
I see. There's looking through Sportsbet, obviously some people have found a lot of people are very excited by the BYO markets.
Yes.
Especially in soccer. I don't know how inflated, whether they're inflated or not, but I'm having a quick scan through the ones for this game. And a lot of the ones are around getting the Quinella. So you've got to be able to pick the first try scorer and the second try scorer in order to get some of these big ones, and we're saying it's not worth chasing one person to score. Now you got to pick 2 in a row.
Yeah.
That's a little bit wild, but here's a good one, right? And this, I'm going to fucking put a unit on it right now, right?
Hit it up.
Check this out. South to win 1 to 12.
Yep.
If they win, that it has to be 1 to 12. Alex Johnson to score a try, and Cam Murray to win Clive Churchill medal, $21.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
That's pretty hot to trot, right?
Yeah, it's not bad. I
wonder what the odds are if you just did a regular same game multi though.
You usually can't do Clive Churchill in same game multi. That's one thing. Yeah, that's one thing they don't do. They do the 1 to 12 at any time. But but you could technically, you wouldn't be able to do it. If you go Souths 1 to 12 into Johnson anytime. Oh, hang on, I've got other legs in this multi. That's not 171 to 1.
525.
Yeah, 525. So
Jesus. Okay. Yeah, I don't like that then. I'll stick with his BIO one. That's pretty cool. I have a double at that. Chuck half a unit at it. Why not? That'll give me something to root for. But I think we've gone through all the points that I want to discuss today. Is there anything else I may have missed?
Because I'm getting a bit forgetful at this old age of mine.
No, I think you've covered off everything. It's going to be very exciting game. Obviously, hopefully Penrith win. It'll be a stressful 80 minutes for myself, but I'm really looking forward to this game. It sucks they can't go as well.
Yeah, I know. But I like watching things on TV anyway. To wrap this fabulous episode up, this preview of the NRL Grand Final, I want to get your dicks hard and your pussies wet for next week's episode. Oh, I giggled at that one. This being the last game of the NRL season, it'll be the last one where we preview the round of NRL. But next week we've got some juice for you. We'll be dropping the podcast later in the week. We'll be dabbling in some of our favorite sports to bet on, most notably the EPL, the NFL, some UFC, and the NBA is not too far away either. So don't think we're going to ghost you. We're not all like that. You'll still hear these thundering voices through your headphones or playing nice and loud on your pillow at night to help you sleep. You'll still hear us every single week. So thank you all for listening. Up the unders, and I'll go fuck myself.
See you guys.